Rush hour at Megamart supermarket. Bright lights, crowded aisles. Vivian Cross, young beautiful CEO in a red business dress, was selecting wine when suddenly two men pressed close. One pressed a small knife against her side. "Don't move or she gets hurt." Customers panicked. Some screamed. Security hadn't reacted yet. At the nearby aisle, Noah Cole, 35, single dad, quietly squeezed his 8-year-old daughter Lily's hand. He twisted the red cord bracelet on his wrist, his voice cutting calmly through the chaos. "You just picked the wrong father and daughter to threaten." The entire supermarket went silent. Vivian turned, eyes wide with shock. Noah Cole lived in the spaces between other people's notice. At 35, he was IT support by day and night security guard 3 evenings a week. Single dad to Lily since his wife died in a car accident 2 years ago. Every dollar counted, every shift mattered, every moment with his daughter was precious. Tonight's Megamart trip was carefully budgeted. Lily sat in the shopping cart, swinging her legs, clutching a piece of paper covered in crooked blue handwriting. Milk, bread, small bear. The bear was underlined 3 times. Her reward for straight A's. The red cord bracelet around Noah's wrist was Lily's creation, braided from yarn during one of his panic attacks after Sarah's funeral. "When you get scared, Daddy, touch the red string and remember to breathe," she'd said. "I made it so you stay calm." He touched it now out of habit. Megamart at rush hour was controlled chaos, the kind of environment where someone could disappear without anyone noticing. Noah hadn't always been invisible. Before Sarah's death, he'd been a respected security training specialist for Port Authority, teaching conflict resolution and crisis management to officers and corporate clients. His expertise in reading body language in diffusing volatile situations had earned him recognition in professional circles. The job paid well, but the hours were unpredictable, sometimes requiring overnight travel for training sessions across the state. After Sarah died, everything changed. Lily needed stability, routine, a father who was present rather than just financially providing. So Noah had traded his prestigious position for predictable hours. IT support during school days and night security at a local business park 3 evenings a week when his in-laws could watch Lily. The career change meant a significant pay cut, but it gave him what mattered most: time with his daughter. The panic attacks had started a month after the funeral. They would strike without warning, his heart racing, breath caught in his lungs, the world narrowing to a pinpoint. The first time it happened, Lily had found him hunched over in the hallway, gasping for air. Instead of being frightened, she'd simply taken an hand and placed it over her heart. "Feel my breathing, Daddy," she'd whispered. "Slow, like mine." The next day, she presented him with the red bracelet, her small fingers carefully braiding the yarn while explaining that red was the color of courage and love. Noah's training had taught him to manage crisis situations, but his daughter had taught him how to breathe through his own. That's when he saw her, Vivian Cross, red business dress, designer heels, moving through the wine section with practiced arrogance, CEO of Cross Tech Industries, where Noah had done contract IT work 6 months ago. She treated him like furniture then, complained to her assistant about the slow internet guy within his earshot. When Noah's equipment cart accidentally brushed her desk, she'd snapped, "Be careful. You damage something expensive, you'll be paying it off forever." And the humiliation had been complete and casual, another invisible worker dismissed by someone who mattered. Now here she was, selecting wine that cost more than Noah's weekly grocery budget. "Daddy, look at the bears," Lily pointed at a stuffed animal display. "After we get milk and bread, sweetheart." That's when Noah noticed them. 2 men, mid-30s, moving through the store with purpose. They weren't shopping. Their eyes tracked Vivian's movement, positioning themselves to intercept her path. The coordination was subtle but unmistakable. When Vivian moved toward the wine section, they split up. One went to the aisle's end, the other circled to approach from the opposite direction. Military precision disguised as casual browsing. Noah's security training kicked in. These weren't opportunistic criminals. This was planned. He maneuvered his cart closer while keeping Lily occupied with her shopping list. The men communicated through subtle gestures, head nods, hand signals. Professional criminals with a specific target. When the taller man adjusted his jacket, Noah glimpsed what he was carrying: a utility knife. Small, retractable blade, meant to intimidate, not kill, but dangerous enough. "Daddy, why are those men watching the pretty lady?" Lily whispered. Noah's blood chilled. If his 8-year-old could see the threat, it was already too late for subtlety. The men were closing in. Vivian, oblivious, continued examining wine labels. Other customers moved through their routines, unaware that a crime was about to unfold in broad fluorescent lighting. Noah squeezed the red cord bracelet, feeling its rough texture against his skin, a reminder of what mattered most: protecting innocent people, especially his daughter, from the violence that some people brought into ordinary spaces. He'd walked away from security work after Sarah died, choosing IT contracts and part-time shifts that let him be present for Lily. But training didn't disappear. Instincts didn't fade. The ability to read dangerous situations and respond appropriately, that stayed with you. "Lily, keep looking at your list for me, okay?" he said quietly. "Are we in trouble, Daddy?" "No, baby, but someone else might be, and Daddy needs to help." She nodded solemnly, the way children do when they sense adult seriousness without understanding its full weight. Noah positioned their cart strategically, giving himself clear sightlines and potential resources. Some trips to the supermarket were about groceries. Others were about preventing someone from getting hurt. As Noah continued observing, a flicker of recognition crossed his face. The shorter of the two men, there was something familiar about his movements, the way he scanned the environment. Noah had seen those mannerisms before, in training sessions he'd conducted years ago. The realization hit him with unexpected force. Jason Mercer, former security professional who'd attended Noah's conflict management course at Port Authority. He'd been promising, attentive, asking intelligent questions about threat assessment. What was he doing here, clearly coordinating a planned attack? The last Noah had heard, Mercer had lost his job due to budget cuts. He had a wife and young son, had shown Noah photos during a lunch break, proudly describing his boy's little league achievements. How had he gone from dedicated security professional to this? The recognition added a layer of complexity to Noah's mental calculations. He now knew the capabilities of at least one attacker. Mercer had been skilled at physical intervention techniques, but his real strength had been in situation control and crowd psychology, dangerous in a public setting. Noah's pulse quickened, but his outward demeanor remained calm. He drew a deep breath, fingers brushing against Lily's red bracelet. The knowledge of Mercer's identity made intervention more complex. This wasn't just about stopping unknown assailants. This was about confronting someone who had fallen from the same professional world Noah had once inhabited. "There but for the grace of God," a voice whispered in his mind. In the brief moment Noah spent processing this realization, the attackers had moved into position. Mercer stationed himself at the end of the wine aisle, casually examining a bottle while maintaining clear sightlines to his partner. The taller man approached from the opposite direction, timing his steps to intercept Vivian as she reached for an expensive champagne bottle. Noah glanced at Lily, ensuring she was distracted by her shopping list, then made a quick decision. He couldn't leave, couldn't just call security and hope they responded in time. Not when he recognized the precision in the attacker's movements, the practiced coordination that suggested they'd done this before. Not when his 88-year-old daughter might witness violence if things escalated. And not when he recognized one of the attackers as a man who had once sat in his classroom, learning the very techniques he was now employing for criminal purposes. Noah had spent 2 years retreating from the world after Sarah's death, focusing his entire existence on providing stability for Lily. He'd stepped back from confrontation, from risk, from the unpredictability that had once been part of his professional life. But some skills couldn't be unlearned. Some instincts couldn't be suppressed, especially when innocent people were in danger. "Lily," he said softly, "I need you to do something very important for me, okay?" She looked up, blue eyes serious. "Like a mission?" Despite the tension coiling in his chest, Noah smiled. "Exactly like a mission. I need you to stay right here with the cart and count all the red things you can see around you. Don't move until I come back." "But what about our groceries?" "This is more important than groceries right now. Can you be my brave girl and do this for me?" Lily nodded solemnly. "I can count really high." "I know you can, sweetheart." Noah positioned the cart near a display of paper products, partially shielded from the wine aisle. Stay right here and remember our rule about strangers. Don't talk to them, and if anyone tries to make me go somewhere, scream really loud. That's my smart girl. Noah straightened, took a deep breath, and moved toward the wine section. Years of training had taught him to read environments for resources and threats. The supermarket offered both in abundance: glass bottles that could shatter, slick floors that could cause falls, narrow aisles that limited movement but also created choke points, civilian bystanders who could become collateral damage. He approached from an angle that allowed him to maintain visual contact with both Lily and the developing situation. The timing would be critical. Too early, and he might escalate a situation that could still be diffused. Too late, and Vivian Cross might be injured or worse. As Noah moved closer, his mind was calculating distances, angles, potential reactions. What was Mercer's objective here? Simple robbery seemed unlikely given the coordination and target selection. Kidnapping? Possible. Corporate espionage? Most likely given Vivian's position and the professional nature of the operation. The attack came with practiced precision. Vivian had just selected an expensive bottle of champagne when the two men closed in from opposite ends of the wine aisle. The taller one moved first, pressing against her left side while his partner, Mercer, blocked her escape route. "Don't make a sound," the tall man whispered, something sharp pressing against her ribs through the red fabric. "Walk with us toward the back exit, nice and quiet." The champagne bottle slipped from Vivian's fingers, shattering against the floor with a sound that cut through the ambient supermarket noise like a gunshot. Customers nearby turned to look, saw the broken glass and the knife now visible against Vivian's dress, and began to scatter, but not to help, to avoid getting involved. "Please," Vivian's voice cracked with panic as she scanned the faces around her. "Someone help me." The response was immediate and heartbreaking. People looked away, grabbed their children closer, pretended they hadn't seen anything. One woman with a full cart actually laughed. "Looks like the rich lady's having problems. Maybe if she wasn't so high and mighty all the time, someone might actually care." Another customer nodded. "I recognize her from the news. Crosstech CEO, always talking about cutting costs and laying people off." The humiliation stung almost as much as the fear. Vivian had spent years cultivating an image of power and control. Now she was reduced to begging strangers for help while they debated whether she deserved it. Meanwhile, Noah was calculating. The supermarket's layout favored the attackers. The wine section connected to a service corridor that led to the loading docks, perfect for extraction. The narrow aisles limited response options. Security cameras had blind spots near the service areas. But the criminals had made tactical errors too. Their utility knives were intimidation tools, not weapons. The retractable blades would fold under pressure in a real struggle. They were focused entirely on controlling Vivian, with no awareness of their surroundings or potential threats. Most critically, they were operating during peak family shopping hours, with children everywhere. Professional criminals should have avoided the collateral complications. Noah quietly repositioned himself while keeping visual contact with Lily, who was diligently counting red objects from her stationary position by the paper towels. "Can we get my bear now, Daddy?" she called out, still clutching her shopping list. "In just a minute, sweetheart. Keep counting for me." The attackers were moving Vivian toward the service corridor, using the crowd's reluctance to intervene as cover. Store security was nowhere visible, probably dealing with some minor crisis in electronics or dealing with a shoplifter, leaving this section unmonitored. That's when disaster struck in the most innocent way possible. Lily's small brown teddy bear, the small bear from her shopping list that she'd been clutching, tumbled out of her hand and rolled directly into the path of the lead attacker. He looked down, annoyed, and kicked it aside with unnecessary force. "Keep your kid's junk out of the way," he snarled at Noah. The comment was casual cruelty, the kind of dismissive rudeness that powerful people showed toward those they considered beneath notice, but it was also a critical mistake. Lily's face crumpled, not just because her toy had been mistreated, but because a bad man had been mean to her daddy. She'd seen enough adults dismiss Noah to recognize the pattern, and it always made her shamed and angry. "That man was mean to you, Daddy," she whispered, loud enough for nearby customers to hear. The observation carried unexpected weight. Several shoppers who'd been avoiding this situation suddenly focused on Noah and Lily, a single father with his young daughter, now being threatened by the same criminals terrorizing the CEO. The dynamic shifted. This wasn't just about Vivian Cross anymore. It was about whether decent people would stand by while criminals hurt a family. But Noah was already moving beyond emotion into tactical assessment. He'd identified his resources: a display of soda bottles that could serve as projectiles, a mop bucket near the customer service desk containing soapy water, paper towels that could be used for restraint or distraction. Most importantly, he'd mapped the lighting angles that would give him advantages without endangering bystanders. The lead attacker was getting impatient with Vivian's resistance. "Move faster, lady, or this gets messy for everyone around here." The threat was clear: hurt the CEO, terrorize the witnesses, escape in the chaos. Classic intimidation escalation when the initial plan hit resistance. "Lily, baby," Noah said quietly, positioning himself between his daughter and the developing crisis. "I need you to close your eyes and count to 20 for Daddy. Is everything okay?" "Everything's going to be okay, but I need you to stay right here and not look until I tell you." He touched the red cord bracelet one final time, feeling the rough texture of his daughter's handiwork. A reminder of what mattered most, what he was willing to protect, and what kind of man he chose to be when violence came to ordinary places. The attackers had made their choice. They'd brought weapons into a space filled with families. They'd threatened an innocent woman. They'd been cruel to his daughter. Now they were about to learn that some fathers were more dangerous than they appeared. "You just picked the wrong father and daughter to threaten," Noah said, his voice cutting clearly through the noise and panic. Every conversation in the supermarket stopped. Every shopper turned to stare. Security cameras recorded everything. And Vivian Cross, who had once dismissed Noah as unworthy of basic respect, found herself looking into the eyes of the only person willing to risk everything to save her life. Everything happened in the space between heartbeats. The lead attacker turned toward Noah, irritation flashing across his face. "Back off, Dad. This doesn't concern you." "Actually, it does." Noah's voice remained perfectly calm as he moved his shopping cart into position. "When you threaten people in front of my daughter, it becomes my concern." The second attacker, Mercer, tightened his grip on Vivian. "Walk away, or your kid sees something she shouldn't." Wrong thing to say. Noah's training kicked in with cold precision. 3 years of night security work hadn't dulled the reflexes he'd developed during his time training conflict resolution for Port Authority. Non-lethal restraint, crowd control, pressure points designed to stop violence without permanent damage. But Noah wasn't at his peak anymore. 2 years of grief had taken their toll. Sleepless nights and skipped meals had hollowed him out in ways that weren't immediately visible. He was still strong, still capable, but not the professional he had once been. The odds weren't in his favor: two trained attackers against one out-of-practice security expert. Yet something else had replaced his professional edge, something fiercer, more primal. The absolute certainty that he would do whatever necessary to protect his daughter and prevent violence in a place where families shopped. The recognition flashed in Mercer's eyes then, the sudden realization of who Noah was. "Oh? Noah Cole?" The moment of recognition created a fractional hesitation, a split-second opportunity that Noah seized without conscious thought. The first move was simple but effective. Noah grabbed a bottle of soda from the nearby display and shook it hard while unscrewing the cap. The pressurized liquid erupted like a geyser, hitting the first attacker directly in the face. Carbonated soda and artificial coloring created instant disorientation. Stinging eyes, blocked vision, the shock of unexpected assault. While the man clawed at his eyes, Noah moved to the primary threat. The utility knife pressed against Vivian's side was exactly what Noah had expected: a retractable blade designed for intimidation. When Mercer reflexively pulled back to avoid the soda spray, Noah struck the knife hand with the edge of his shopping cart. The impact wasn't hard enough to break bones, but it hit the exact nerve cluster that controlled grip strength. The utility knife clattered to the floor, its cheap blade retracting into the handle on impact. "Get down," Noah commanded Vivian, his voice carrying the authority of someone trained to manage crisis situations. She dropped immediately, years of corporate survival instincts recognizing real leadership when she heard it. Now Noah had clear access to both attackers. The first man was still blinded by soda, stumbling toward the paper towel display. Noah grabbed a handful of the rough brown towels and wrapped them quickly around the man's wrist, creating makeshift restraints, not permanent, but effective enough to control him for the 60 seconds this would take. Mercer, now disarmed but still dangerous, lunged forward with his fist. Noah sidestepped and used the man's momentum against him, a simple redirect learned from years of dealing with drunk and aggressive people during his security shifts. But this time something went wrong. Noah's foot slipped in the spilled soda, throwing off his balance just enough that Mercer's punch connected with his ribs instead of passing harmlessly up. Sharp pain flared along Noah's side, a reminder that he wasn't the professional he once was, that 2 years of grief had eroded more than just his emotional defenses. Mercer pressed his advantage, following with a second punch aimed at Noah's face. Noah barely managed to deflect it, the force still sending him stumbling back against the wine display. Several bottles crashed to the floor, creating a hazardous landscape of glass and liquid. For a heartbeat, doubt flashed through Noah's mind. He wasn't ready for this. He was out of practice, operating on instinct rather than current training. He might fail, might get hurt, might let Lily see her father beaten. The thought of Lily centered him again. He touched the red bracelet, felt its rough texture against his skin. Breathe, he told himself. Breathe and think. Noah's strength had never been in overpowering opponents. It had been in observation, in reading situations and people, in finding unexpected solutions. He scanned his environment with new intensity, noting the spilled wine creating a slick surface, the fallen bottles providing obstacles, the growing crowd of onlookers creating both complications and opportunities. An older man stood at the edge of the crowd, military posture, alert eyes assessing the situation with professional interest. Their gazes met briefly, an unspoken communication passing between them. The man nodded almost imperceptibly and began quietly directing other customers back, creating space, reducing potential collateral damage. Noah recognized another resource, someone with training, someone who understood what was happening. Not direct help, but containment, preparation. Mercer advanced again, more cautious now, recognizing Noah as a genuine threat rather than an inconvenience. You should have stayed with your kid, Cole. This isn't your fight. You brought the fight to my daughter when you kicked her bare, Noah replied, voice steady despite the pain in his side. And when you threatened an innocent woman in a public space. Innocent, Mercer scoffed. You know what her company does? How many lives they destroy with their outsourcing and cost-cutting? People like her don't care about people like us. And this fixes that how exactly. The conversation created a critical delay, seconds for Noah to regain his balance, to calculate his next move, to let the adrenaline override the pain in his ribs. The first attacker was recovering now, wiping soda from his eyes with his free hand, the paper towel restraint still limiting his mobility, but not completely disabling him. Noah needed to end this quickly, before the situation escalated beyond his control. He feinted left, then dropped low, sweeping Mercer's legs from under him. The move sent fresh pain shooting through Noah's side, but achieved its purpose. Mercer fell hard, the back of his head striking the edge of a lower shelf, not enough to cause serious injury, but sufficient to disorient him momentarily. The first attacker had managed to tear away the paper towel restraint and was reaching inside his jacket, potentially for another weapon. Noah had no time for finesse now. He grabbed the mop bucket from the nearby customer service desk and upended it directly in the man's path. Soapy water, industrial floor cleaner, and the hard plastic rim of the bucket created a perfect storm of disorientation and injury. The man went down hard, slipping on the spreading puddle of cleaning solution. Noah was on him immediately, using another handful of paper towels to secure the man's hands behind his back. Again, not permanent restraints, but enough to keep him controlled until proper help arrived. Mercer was struggling to rise, still dazed from the impact. Noah turned to face him, calculating the risk of approaching versus maintaining distance. The decision was made for him when the older man from the crowd stepped forward, placing a firm boot on Mercer's chest. Stay down, son, the man said calmly with the unmistakable authority of military command. You've made enough bad choices today. Mercer looked up, assessed the newcomer, and wisely decided to remain still. Total elapsed time, 43 seconds. Two attackers neutralized using nothing but supermarket supplies and techniques designed to stop violence rather than escalate it. The store had gone completely silent. Every customer, every employee, every security camera was focused on the single father who had just dismantled a kidnapping attempt using soda bottles and paper towels. Lily peeked around the shopping cart, her eyes wide. Daddy, did you win? Noah felt the adrenaline beginning to fade, the pain in his ribs making itself known with greater intensity. He managed a smile for his daughter. We all won, sweetheart. The bad men can't hurt anyone now. That's when the security guards finally arrived, followed immediately by police sirens wailing in the parking lot. Noah knelt beside Vivian, who was still crouched behind the wine display, shaking. Are you hurt? He asked gently. She shook her head, unable to speak. Her perfectly styled hair was disheveled, her expensive dress stained with soda and wine, but she was unharmed. Sir, one of the police officers approached Noah. We're going to need a statement about what happened here. Noah reached into his pocket and pulled out his phone, scrolling through the photos he'd taken earlier. I documented their suspicious behavior starting about 10 minutes ago. Coordinated movement, targeting behavior, weapons assessment. I have timestamps and clear images of both suspects. The officer stared. You were gathering evidence before the attack even started? Security training, old habits. Noah handed over his phone. You'll also want to check the store cameras. I positioned myself to make sure everything was captured clearly. A murmur rippled through the crowd of onlookers. This wasn't just a lucky intervention by a concerned citizen. This was professional-level threat assessment and response. Vivian slowly stood up, using the wine rack for support. She looked at Noah with an expression somewhere between gratitude and disbelief. I know you, she said quietly. You worked at Cross Tech. IT support. Contract work, 6 months ago, Noah confirmed, wincing slightly as he straightened, one arm wrapped protectively around his ribs. The recognition was dawning on her face, along with something that might have been shame. I remember. I wasn't very kind to you. Noah shrugged, immediately regretting the movement as pain flared along his side. You were having a bad day. Everyone has bad days. But the crowd around them was recording everything, and several people had clearly recognized both Noah and Vivian. The story was already being uploaded to social media. The CEO who dismissed the IT contractor, saved by that same man when her life was in danger. Why the memory? Vivian asked, after the police had taken preliminary statements and paramedics were checking both Noah and the subdued attackers. After how I treated you, why would you help me? Noah looked over at Lily, who was carefully coloring on her shopping list and again, adding decorative stars around the words small bear with her blue crayon. Because that's what you do when someone needs help. And because I want my daughter to grow up in a world where people protect each other, even when it's inconvenient or dangerous. The police finished securing the two attackers, both of whom were conscious but thoroughly subdued. The older man who had helped Noah approached, introducing himself as Frank Donovan, retired Marine Corps. Good work, son, he said, shaking Noah's hand. Haven't seen civilian intervention like that since I left the service. You've had training. Some, Noah admitted, not as current as I should be. Current enough. Frank nodded toward the attackers being led away. You handled that better than most would have, especially protecting the civilians and minimizing damage. The investigation would later reveal that Mercer and his partner were hired professionals, paid to kidnap Vivian as part of a corporate espionage scheme involving Cross-Tech's latest technology patents. But all of that would come later. Right now, in this moment, a supermarket full of witnesses had just watched an invisible single father become a hero, using nothing but everyday items and the quiet courage that came from loving someone more than you feared getting hurt. Daddy, Lily said, holding up her shopping list, I added something. Below small bear, in careful blue letters, she'd written, Daddy is brave. Noah's eyes filled with tears as he read it. Some lessons about courage came from textbooks. Others came from watching your father stand up for strangers in the soda aisle of a supermarket. The paramedic finishing her examination of Noah's ribs noticed the exchange. Your daughter's right, she said quietly. What you did was incredibly brave, incredibly foolish too, but brave. Are you going to need x-rays, sir? Her partner asked, indicating Noah's ribs. Noah shook his head. Just bruised, I think. I've had worse. At least let us wrap them for you. As the paramedics applied a supportive bandage around Noah's midsection, Vivian approached again. She'd been giving her statement to the police, and the shock was beginning to wear off, replaced by something more complex, a mixture of gratitude and uncertainty. The officers say I owe you my life, she said. They think these men were planning to use me to access proprietary technology at Crosstech. She hesitated, clearly uncomfortable with vulnerability. I'm not good at this sort of thing, but thank you. Noah nodded, accepting her thanks without making it more difficult for her. How did you know? She asked. What to look for, I mean. Most people wouldn't have noticed anything wrong until it was too late. I used to train security personnel in threat assessment and intervention techniques, Noah explained, before I switched to IT work. Why would anyone make that career change? The question wasn't asked unkindly, just with genuine curiosity. Noah looked over at Lily, now happily examining her recovered teddy bear for damage. My wife died 2 years ago. Car accident. Lily needed stability more than we needed the extra income from my security work. I ate contracts, let me be home when she gets out of school, and my night security shifts are only when my in-laws can watch her. Understanding dawned on Vivian's face. You gave up your career for your daughter. I changed careers for my daughter, Noah corrected gently. It's not the same thing. Before Vivian could respond, a flurry of activity at the store entrance announced the arrival of more police, along with what appeared to be corporate security personnel in suits. Ms. Cross, one of the suited men, approached urgently. Are you all right? The board has been notified of the incident, and they're extremely concerned. I'm fine, Thomas, thanks to Mr. Cole here. Vivian gestured toward Noah. He intervened when no one else would. Thomas gave Noah a cursory glance, the kind of assessment that categorized and dismissed someone in the same moment. Yes, well, we'll make sure he receives an appropriate thank you. Right now, we need to get you somewhere secure. The media is already gathering outside. The supermarket manager approached, looking both concerned and calculating, aware that her store was about to receive an unprecedented amount of publicity. Mr. Cole, is there anything we can do for you and your daughter? Perhaps complimentary groceries for your trouble? Noah shook his head. We just need to finish our shopping list. Milk, bread, and he smiled at Lily, one small bear. Of course, of course. Please allow me to personally assist you. As the manager led Noah and Lily toward the dairy section, Vivian called after them. Mr. Cole, Noah, I'm sure we'll speak again soon. Crosstech owes you a considerable debt. Noah nodded politely but said nothing. He had no expectation of further interaction with Vivian Cross or her company. The gulf between their worlds was too wide, the encounter merely a momentary intersection of two very different lives. By tomorrow, she would be back in her executive suite, and he would be troubleshooting printer connections in office cubicles. Some distances couldn't be bridged by a single act of courage, no matter how dramatic. Frank Donovan, the retired Marine, fell into step beside Noah as they walked. Got a minute, son? Looks like I'm being escorted on a VIP shopping trip, Noah replied with a wry smile, gesturing to the hovering manager. You handled yourself well back there, but you're favoring your left side. Ribs? Noah nodded. Nothing serious. Still might put you out of commission for a few days. You mentioned night security work? 3 evenings a week. Why? Frank handed Noah a business card. Ishun, I run a security consulting firm, nothing fancy, mostly training for corporate clients, some risk assessment, always looking for people who can actually handle themselves in real situations, not just talk about theory. Give me a call when those ribs heal up. Might have some flexible work that pays better than night shifts. Noah took the card, surprised. I appreciate it, but my schedule's pretty tight with Lily. Family comes first, Frank agreed. That's why all my contractors set their own hours. Think about it. World needs more men like you teaching others how to handle themselves. With that, the older man nodded respectfully and walked away, leaving Noah holding the business card and feeling as though the ground had shifted beneath his feet. "Daddy, can we get ice cream too?" Lily asked, oblivious to the significant exchange that had just occurred. "Since you were a superhero today." Noah tucked the card into his pocket and smiled at his daughter. "I think that can be arranged, sweetheart." By the time they finished their shopping, the media presence outside the store had grown considerably. Noah guided Lily toward the side exit, hoping to avoid the cameras. The last thing he wanted was his daughter's face splashed across the evening news. But as they loaded their groceries into their modest sedan, a reporter spotted them. Sir, are you the man who stopped the attack on Vivian Cross?" Noah placed himself between the approaching reporter and Lily. "No comment, please. My daughter's had enough excitement for one day." "The video's already going viral," the reporter persisted. "People are calling you the grocery store hero. Can you just tell us what made you step in when everyone else backed away?" "Please," Noah said firmly. "We just want to go home." Recognizing Noah's protective stance, the reporter backed off slightly. "Of course, but people will want to know your story. Would you consider an interview later on your terms?" "Maybe, not today." As Noah drove home, Lily fell asleep in her car seat, clutching her new teddy bear. The events of the day had exhausted her, the excitement giving way to the deep, unburdened sleep that only children seem capable of achieving. Noah's ribs throbbed with each breath, a painful reminder of how close he'd come to failure. He wasn't as young as he used to be, wasn't as fast or as strong. If Frank hadn't stepped in to help with Mercer, if the attackers had been armed with real weapons instead of utility knives, if they'd been more prepared for resistance, the outcome could have been very different. Yet despite the pain and the what-ifs circling in his mind, Noah felt something he hadn't experienced in the 2 years since Sarah's death, a sense of purpose beyond mere survival. For years, his entire focus had been on creating stability for Lily, on building a life that was predictable and secure. Today had reminded him that sometimes security came not from avoiding danger, but from facing it directly. As he pulled into the driveway of the small house he and Lily had moved into after selling the family home, too many memories, too much space, too expensive, Noah noticed the message light blinking on his phone. 3 missed calls from numbers he didn't recognize, and one text message from his former supervisor at Cross Tech. "Saw the news. Board members asking about you. Call me." Noah silenced the phone and carefully lifted his sleeping daughter from the car. Some things were more important than viral videos or corporate inquiries. Right now, all that mattered was getting Lily into bed and finding enough painkillers to dull the throbbing in his side. Tomorrow would bring its own challenges. For tonight, they were safe. They had each other, and they had successfully completed their shopping list: milk, bread, small bear, and the unwritten item that mattered most: coming home together. The video exploded across every platform within hours. "Single Dad Saves CEO from Kidnapping Using Soda Bottles and Paper Towels" became the most watched story of the week. The footage, captured by multiple customer phones, showed everything: the attackers threatening Vivian, Noah's calm response, the takedown using everyday supermarket items, and most powerfully, Lily adding, "Daddy is brave" to her shopping list. The hashtag CalmDad went viral instantly. Comments flooded in from around the world. "When you threaten someone's family in front of a trained security expert disguised as a grocery dad." Plot twist: the IT guy she fired just saved her life with carbonated beverages. That little girl writing "Daddy is brave" broke me completely. Noah awoke the morning after the incident to an incessant buzzing from his phone. 37 missed calls, hundreds of notifications, and messages from people he hadn't spoken to in years. His email inbox had exploded with interview requests from national news outlets. Even his rarely used social media accounts were flooded with friend requests and messages. He set the phone down with a grimace, the movement sending a sharp reminder of yesterday's confrontation shooting through his ribs. The bruising had blossomed overnight, painting his left side in spectacular shades of purple and blue. The paramedic had been right. Nothing broken, but he wouldn't be moving comfortably for at least a week. "Daddy, are you famous now?" Noah turned to find Lily standing in his bedroom doorway, still in her unicorn pajamas, hair tousled from sleep. She clutched her new teddy bear, now wearing a makeshift bandage where its arm had been reattached after yesterday's incident. Not famous, sweetheart. Just in the news a little bit. Mrs. Peterson next door called. She said you're on TV. Noah sighed. Of course they were on television. The confrontation had everything the media craved: danger, heroism, a cute kid, and a wealthy CEO humbled by ordinary citizens. Add in the David versus Goliath dynamic of an IT contractor saving the executive who dismissed him, and it was irresistible. How about some breakfast? Noah deflected, pushing himself upright with a carefully concealed wince. Pancakes? While Lily arranged her stuffed animals at the kitchen table, Noah turned on the coffee maker and tried to ignore the insistent buzzing of his phone. He needed normalcy this morning, routine and quiet to process what had happened and decide how to move forward. Fame, even 15 minutes of it, wasn't something he had ever sought or wanted. The pancake batter was just beginning to bubble when a firm knock sounded at the front door. Noah tensed, immediately alert. Nobody knocked on their door at 7:30 a.m. on a Saturday. "Stay here, Lily," he said, turning down the burner. "Keep an eye on the pancakes for me." She nodded solemnly, accepting the wooden spoon he handed her as if it were a sacred trust. The peephole revealed a professionally dressed woman with a tablet and a determined expression. Not media, they would have brought cameras. Process server, maybe? Insurance representative? Noah opened the door cautiously, keeping his body positioned to block any view into the house where Lily might be visible. "Mr. Cole? Noah Cole?" The woman's tone was brisk, but not unfriendly. "Yes, how can I help you?" She extended her hand. "Rebecca Winters, Chief of Security for Cross Technologies. May I have a moment of your time?" Noah didn't take her hand immediately, assessing the situation. "It's Saturday morning, Ms. Winters. I'm making breakfast for my daughter." "I understand, and I apologize for the intrusion." She lowered her hand without offense. "However, the matter is time-sensitive and directly related to yesterday's incident. 10 minutes, that's all I ask." Noah considered his options. Turning her away would only delay the inevitable. Crosstech would want statements, perhaps liability waivers. Better to handle it now than have it hanging over his head. 10 minutes, he agreed, stepping back to allow her entry. "I have pancakes on the stove." Rebecca followed him to the kitchen where Lily was carefully watching the pancake batter, spoon poised for action. "You must be Lily," Rebecca said, her professional demeanor softening slightly. "I've heard you're an excellent shopping list manager." Lily looked to her father for guidance on how to respond to this stranger. At his reassuring nod, she replied, "I write very neatly with blue crayon. Are you one of the people who was mean to Daddy at his work?" The directness of the question seemed to catch Rebecca off guard. She recovered quickly. "No, I'm new at Cross Technologies. In fact, I started after your daddy finished his contract with us." Noah returned to the stove, flipping pancakes while keeping one ear on the conversation. "What can I do for Cross Tech on a Saturday morning, Ms. Winters?" Rebecca placed her tablet on the counter, careful to keep it away from potential pancake splatter. "First, I want to personally thank you for what you did yesterday. Vivian Cross is not just our CEO. She's the driving force behind technology that will revolutionize medical diagnostics. Her kidnapping would have been catastrophic on multiple levels." Noah acknowledged her thanks with a nod as he slid perfect golden pancakes onto Lily's waiting plate. "The investigation revealed the corporate espionage angle?" "Yes, Jason Mercer and his partner were hired by competitors to extract proprietary information. Quite sophisticated operation. They'd been planning it for weeks." She paused, watching as Noah carefully cut Lily's pancakes into manageable pieces. "Which makes your intervention all the more remarkable. You spotted them despite their professional training." "Like I said, old habits." Noah poured more batter onto the griddle. "But I doubt you came here just to thank me." Rebecca's expression turned more serious. "No, I came with a proposition. Crosstech's board held an emergency meeting last night after reviewing both the security footage and our internal protocols. They were disturbed by what they found." "Meaning?" "Meaning that 6 months ago, when you did work for us, you submitted a comprehensive security assessment that identified significant vulnerabilities in our executive protection protocols. An assessment that Vivian rejected as unnecessarily expensive and paranoid." Noah remembered the report well. He'd spent extra hours compiling it, going beyond his IT contract to highlight security concerns he'd noticed throughout the building. Doors that remained unlocked, blind spots in camera coverage, staff who wore identification badges in public, making them identifiable as cross-tech employees. Vivian had dismissed his concerns without reading past the first page. Yesterday proved every point in your rejected assessment, Rebecca continued. Our executive protection failed completely, leaving our CEO vulnerable to exactly the kind of targeted attack you warned about. Lily, having finished her pancakes, was now drawing on a placemat, seemingly absorbed in her artwork, but obviously listening to every word. Again, I appreciate the acknowledgement, Noah said, serving himself breakfast and gesturing to offer some to Rebecca, who declined with a polite wave. But I'm still not seeing why this required a Saturday morning house call. Rebecca straightened, shifting into what Noah recognized as a prepared pitch. The board has authorized me to offer you a position as special security consultant to Cross Technologies, focusing specifically on executive protection and corporate security protocols. Noah paused with his fork midway to his mouth. I'm an IT contractor, Miss Winters. You're a former Port Authority security trainer with expertise in threat assessment and nonviolent intervention who happens to also have IT skills. Your dual background is precisely what makes you valuable to us. She slid the tablet toward him, displaying a contract with terms that made Noah's eyebrows rise involuntarily. The salary was nearly triple his current combined income from IT work and night security shifts. This is generous, he admitted, scanning the key points. But also impossible. I'm a single parent. My entire work schedule is built around being available for Lily. Rebecca nodded as if she'd anticipated this objection. The position includes flexible hours, the ability to work remotely 3 days a week, and complete autonomy in setting your on-site schedule. We're not asking you to change your priorities, Mr. Cole. We're offering to align our needs with them. Lily, who had been quietly drawing, suddenly spoke up. Does this mean Daddy won't have to work at night anymore? Because Grandma says he works too much and gets tired. The innocent question hit Noah with unexpected force. His night security shifts meant time away from Lily, evenings when he came home exhausted, mornings when he struggled to be fully present for her. He'd accepted it as necessary sacrifice, the cost of providing stability after Sarah's death. That would be entirely up to your father, Rebecca told Lily. But yes, this job would mean no more night shifts. She turned back to Noah. The board also authorized me to inform you that Cross-Tech will be covering all educational expenses for Lily through college, regardless of whether you accept the position. It's a separate matter, not contingent on your decision. Noah set down his fork, momentarily speechless. Lily's education fund had been depleted after Sarah's medical expenses and funeral costs. Rebuilding it had been a constant, nagging worry in the back of his mind. Why, he finally asked, why go to these lengths? Rebecca's professional veneer cracked slightly, showing a glimpse of genuine emotion. Because everyone saw that video, Mr. Cole. Everyone saw a man who had been treated poorly by our company put himself at risk to save our CEO. The contrast between your actions and how Cross-Tech handled your previous contributions. It's not a narrative any corporation wants associated with their brand. Ah, there it was. The real motivation. Damage control. The viral video wasn't just showing Noah's heroism, it was highlighting Cross-Tech's callous treatment of the very person who had tried to prevent the situation. So this is about public relations, Noah said, his tone neutral, but his disappointment evident. Partially, Rebecca admitted. I won't insult your intelligence by pretending otherwise. But it's also about recognizing talent and correcting a mistake. Your security assessment was right. Your intervention yesterday was extraordinary. Cross-Tech needs people like you, regardless of what the internet thinks. She stood, gathering her tablet. You don't need to decide now. The offer remains open for 2 weeks. She placed a business card on the table. Call me when you're ready to discuss it further. After Rebecca left, Noah sat at the kitchen table, staring at the business card while Lily finished her drawing. The offer was tempting, and more than tempting. It would solve so many practical problems, provide security for Lily's future, eliminate the exhausting night shifts. Yet something about it felt wrong, as if accepting would somehow validate the system that had dismissed him in the first place. Daddy, look, Lily pushed her drawing across the table. It's us at the store, but the bad men are gone and the pretty lady is smiling. The childish drawing showed three stick figures, a tall one labeled Daddy, a small one with pigtails labeled Me, and a figure in a red triangle dress labeled CEO Lady. All were holding hands with enormous smiles. That's beautiful, sweetheart, Noah said, his throat suddenly tight. Why is everyone holding hands? Lily looked at him as if the answer should be obvious. Because you helped her, so now she's our friend. That's how it works. The simple, optimistic logic of childhood, where saving someone automatically made them your friend, where past slights could be forgotten in an instant. Noah wished the adult world operated with such straightforward rules of engagement. His phone buzzed again, this time with a text from his mother-in-law. Turn on channel 7 now. Noah reached for the remote with a sense of dread, switching on the small television in the kitchen. The screen filled with an aerial view of their house, a news helicopter circling overhead like a vulture. Breaking news this morning as we continue coverage of the dramatic rescue at Megamart yesterday, the announcer's voice declared. We're live outside the home of Noah Cole, the heroic father who saved tech CEO Vivian Cross from armed kidnappers using only household items found in the supermarket. Daddy, our house is on TV, Lily exclaimed, both excited and confused. The camera cut to a reporter standing at the end of their driveway, where a small crowd of journalists and curious onlookers had already gathered. Sources tell us that Cole, a former security specialist who now works in IT support, had previously warned Cross Technologies about security vulnerabilities that left their CEO exposed to exactly this kind of attack. His warnings were reportedly ignored by the company that later hired him as a contractor. Noah switched off the television, his mind racing. This was escalating beyond anything he'd expected. Their home address being broadcast, reporters camped outside, the implied corporate negligence angle, all of it creating a narrative he'd never asked for or wanted. Are those people going to come to our door? Lily asked, suddenly less excited and more anxious. No, sweetheart, we're not going to talk to them. Noah pulled out his phone and dialed his in-laws. Sarah's parents had been his rock since her death, stepping in to help with Lily and providing emotional support when he felt most adrift. Hey, Barbara, it's me. You've seen the news? Yeah. I was hoping we could come over for the day, maybe stay the night. The reporters, exactly. We'll pack a bag, thanks. As Noah helped Lily gather her essentials for an overnight stay, his phone rang again. This time, the caller ID showed a number he recognized. Frank Donovan, the retired Marine who had helped subdue Mercer at the supermarket. Cole, you've seen what's happening? Frank's voice was gruff with concern. Just did. We're heading to my in-laws until things calm down. Good, these media frenzies burn hot but fast. Listen, I've got some experience managing this kind of attention. Military taught me a few things about deflecting unwanted spotlights. Want some advice? Noah paused in the middle of packing Lily's favorite pajamas. I'd appreciate it. Don't run. Control the narrative. Give them one interview on your terms at a neutral location. Answer their questions, be humble but confident, then firmly state that's all you're saying on the matter. They'll respect boundaries if you establish them clearly. And if they don't, Frank's chuckle held little humor. Then you call me and I'll show them what a cranky old Marine thinks about harassing a single father and his little girl. The offer of support, coming from a man he barely knew, caught Noah off guard. Since Sarah's death, he'd grown accustomed to handling everything alone, reluctant to lean on others beyond the practical childcare help from his in-laws. I appreciate that, Noah said, meaning it. One more thing, Frank added. Whatever Crosstech offered you, and I'm sure they've approached you already, don't take the first offer. You've got leverage right now, use it. After ending the call, Noah finished packing and led Lily out the back door. They cut through the neighbor's yard with permission, avoiding the growing media presence at their front door, and made their way to where Noah had parked his car 2 blocks away as a precaution. Is this like being a spy, Daddy? Lily whispered dramatically as they moved through Mrs. Peterson's garden. Something like that, sweetheart. We're just avoiding the cameras for a while. At his in-laws' house across town, Noah finally had a moment to process the morning's events. Barbara and Gerald welcomed them with open arms, immediately whisking Lily off to see the new bird feeder Gerald had built, giving Noah space to think. The kitchen table at the modest rancher had been the site of many family discussions over the years. Now Noah sat alone, Frank's business card in one hand, Rebecca Winters in the other, weighing options he'd never imagined having 24 hours ago. His phone buzzed with another text message, this one from a number he didn't recognize. Mr. Cole, this is Vivian Cross. I need to speak with you personally, not through corporate representatives. Please call me at this number when you can. The message was surprising in both its directness and the fact that the CEO herself was reaching out rather than delegating the communication. Noah hesitated, then saved the number without responding. He needed time to think, to consider his options carefully rather than reacting to the cascade of attention. Gerald entered the kitchen, 2 cups of coffee in hand. Sarah's father had aged significantly since her death, grief etching deep lines around his eyes, but his practical, steady nature remained unchanged. Thought you might need this, he said, sliding one mug across the table. Lily's showing Barbara her bear and explaining how you rescued it from very bad men at the store. Quite the storyteller, our girl. Noah accepted the coffee gratefully. It's getting complicated, Gerald. Life has a way of doing that. The older man settled into the chair opposite. Barbara's already fielded 6 calls from reporters who somehow got our number. You're big news, son. Not by choice. Rarely is. Gerald studied him thoughtfully. You know, when Sarah died, you withdrew from everything except Lily and work. Understandable. Grief takes different paths for different people. But I always wondered if you were using your responsibilities as a shield against rejoining the world. The observation, gentle but pointed, struck uncomfortably close to home. Noah had indeed retreated after Sarah's death, narrowing his focus to the essential task of providing for and protecting Lily. It had been safer that way, more controllable. Maybe, he admitted, but this isn't exactly the re-entry I would have chosen. Gerald nodded. Life rarely asks our permission before changing course. Question is, what are you going to do with the opportunity? Opportunity? Noah repeated. Having reporters camped on my lawn and corporate executives suddenly discovering I exist? The opportunity to step back into the larger world, to use the skills you set aside after Sarah died, to show Lily that her father isn't just a protector but a builder, a creator of something beyond just safety. The perspective shift was unexpected. Noah had been viewing the attention as an intrusion, a problem to be managed and then escaped. Gerald was suggesting it might be something else entirely, a doorway rather than an obstacle. Before Noah could formulate a response, his phone rang again. This time the display showed his night security supervisor's number. Dave, hey, Noah answered, already anticipating the conversation. Cole, saw you on the news. Impressive work. Dave's voice held genuine admiration. Listen, hate to add to what I'm sure is a crazy day, but I need to know if you're going to make your shifts next week. Got calls from 3 networks wanting to set up interviews at the business park during your patrol. Can't have that kind of disruption. Noah closed his eyes briefly. Of course the media would track down his workplace. Of course they would try to film him doing his security rounds. The night shift that had been a stable, reliable part of his carefully constructed life was now compromised. I understand, he said. Let me think about it and get back to you tonight. Sure thing. And Cole, whatever you decide, you've got a job here as long as you want it. Not everyone would have done what you did. The conversation left Noah feeling both grateful for Dave's support and increasingly cornered by circumstances beyond his control. His carefully constructed life, the balanced schedule, the manageable routine, the spaces where he could function without drawing attention, was unraveling around him. Gerald, who had been listening to Noah's side of the conversation, pushed a notepad across the table. Make a list, all the options, all the concerns, all the possibilities. Your mother-in-law swears by it. The suggestion was so practical, so characteristic of Gerald's approach to life, that Noah found himself smiling despite everything. Sarah had inherited that same methodical problem-solving from her father. She would have had a spreadsheet created already, with color-coded categories and weighted decision factors. Sarah would know exactly what to do, Noah said quietly. Gerald's expression softened. Maybe, or maybe she'd be just as overwhelmed. What I do know is that she'd want you and Lily to thrive, not just survive. She'd want you to use every talent you have, not just the ones that fit neatly into a safe routine. As Noah began jotting down his options, Lily burst into the kitchen, Barbara following behind with an apologetic expression. Daddy, Grandma let me watch TV, and you're on it again. They're showing the video where you made the bad men fall down with soda. Noah set down his pen, accepting Lily onto his lap despite the protest from his bruised ribs. Are they? And what did you think about that? It looks scary, she admitted, but you weren't scared at all. Noah exchanged a glance with Gerald, who raised an eyebrow in silent challenge. How much truth did a child need? How much should be carefully filtered? Actually, I was scared, Noah told his daughter. Being brave doesn't mean not feeling scared. It means doing what's right, even when you are scared. Lily considered this, her small brow furrowed in concentration. Like when I got the shot at the doctor's office, and I was scared, but I did it anyway. Exactly like that. Were you scared when Mommy died? The question came without warning, as children's questions often did, cutting straight to the heart of matters adults carefully circled. Noah felt Gerald and Barbara both watching him, waiting to see how he would navigate this moment. Since Sarah's death, he and Lily had spoken of her often, keeping her memory alive through stories and photographs. But they rarely discussed the raw emotions of that time. I was terrified, Noah admitted, holding his daughter close. More scared than I've ever been in my life. I was scared about taking care of you alone. Scared about how much it hurt to lose Mommy. Scared about what our life would look like without her. But you did it anyway, Lily said, making the connection herself. You were brave like at the store. I tried to be. Sometimes I wasn't very good at it. Sometimes I'm still not. Lily wrapped her arms around his neck, a gesture of comfort that nearly undid him. It's okay, Daddy. We can practice being brave together. Over Lily's shoulder, Noah saw Barbara wiping away a tear while Gerald nodded with quiet approval. The simple wisdom of children. That courage was a skill to be practiced, not an inborn trait some possessed and others lacked. That fear and bravery could coexist. That sometimes the most courageous acts happen not in supermarket confrontations, but in ordinary moments of grief and growth. That sounds like an excellent plan, sweetheart, Noah agreed, his voice rough with emotion. The rest of the day passed in the comforting routine of family time. Lunch in the backyard, Lily helping Gerald with his garden, Barbara showing Noah the scrapbook of news clippings she'd already begun collecting about his heroic adventure, as she called it. The normalcy was both soothing and slightly surreal, given the media circus likely still camped outside their home. By evening, Noah had made his decision. He called Dave and resigned from his night security position, explaining that the circumstances made it impossible to continue. Dave understood, even offering to keep the position open for a few months in case things changed. Next, Noah called Frank Donovan, accepting his offer of guidance through the media attention. Smart move, Frank approved. I'll set up one interview, controlled environment, limited time. They get their story. You set your boundaries. Everyone moves on. Thank you, Noah said, genuinely grateful. For the help at the store and for this. Marines look out for each other, even the almost Marines, Frank replied, referring to Noah's near enlistment years ago before a minor medical issue had disqualified him. Besides, what you did took guts. World needs more of that, not less. After putting Lily to bed in his old room at the in-laws, Noah finally steeled himself to return Vivian Cross's call. It was nearly 9 o'clock, possibly too late for a business call, but his intuition suggested this wasn't strictly business. She answered on the second ring, her voice crisp and alert. Mr. Cole, thank you for calling back. Ms. Cross, you wanted to speak with me? There was a brief pause, as if she were carefully considering her words. Yes, not as CEO to contractor, but as the woman you helped to the person who helped her. I'd like to meet somewhere private, away from corporate representatives and media. Noah hadn't expected this. The corporate job offer, yes. Media attention, certainly. But a personal meeting with the CEO whose dismissive treatment had been broadcast alongside his heroic intervention? That was unexpected. May I ask why? He inquired, keeping his tone neutral. Another pause. Because what happened yesterday wasn't just a security incident to me. It was deeply personal. And your intervention was equally personal. I need to understand why you did it, especially given our previous interaction. The vulnerability in her voice was surprising. Vivian Cross, by reputation and Noah's brief experience, was not someone who admitted to needing anything, especially understanding. All right, he agreed, but I'm staying with family right now, avoiding the media attention, and my daughter is my priority. Of course, would tomorrow evening work? I can come to you wherever is convenient. No assistance, no corporate security, just me. They arranged to meet at a small coffee shop near his in-laws' house, a place unlikely to attract attention from either the media or corporate observers. After ending the call, Noah sat on the back porch watching the stars and trying to make sense of how completely his life had changed in just 36 hours. The next morning brought a fresh wave of media coverage. The story had evolved overnight, with new angles emerging as journalists dug deeper into both Noah's background and Cross Technology's security practices. Someone had leaked portions of Noah's rejected security assessment, creating a narrative of corporate negligence that was rapidly gaining traction. They're calling it the warning they ignored, Barbara reported, showing Noah the headline on her tablet over breakfast. This says your security report specifically mentioned executive vulnerability during public appearances and recommended protocols that would have prevented the kidnapping attempt. Noah sighed. The report was much broader than that, covering everything from building access to information security. Someone's cherry-picking to make a better story. Gerald joined them at the table, his expression troubled. They're also digging into your background, son. That reporter on Channel 4 mentioned Sarah's accident, said it was what made you change careers. They're framing it as a tragic backstory for the hero. The intrusion into his personal tragedy hit Noah like a physical blow. Sarah's death wasn't a narrative device or a character motivation in some drama. It was the shattering of his world, the loss of his partner, the moment that had forever changed Lily's childhood. To see it reduced to a plot point in the media's constructed narrative felt like a desecration. "Daddy, can we go home today?" Lily asked, oblivious to the adult's concern as she carefully arranged fruit shapes on her pancake. "I need to water my plants, and Bear needs his special blanket from my room." The innocent question brought Noah back to the immediate concern, how to manage this situation while maintaining some normalcy for Lily. She couldn't stay isolated at her grandparents' house indefinitely, but returning home meant facing the media presence that had likely only grown since yesterday. Frank Donovan arrived mid-morning as promised, bringing with him a plan for handling the media attention. "I've arranged one interview, Diane Chen from National Morning. She's fair, professional, and won't sensationalize your story. The station has agreed to our terms. Neutral location, 30 minutes max, no questions about your daughter or your late wife, and a clear statement that this will be your only interview." "When?" Noah asked, impressed by the thoroughness of the arrangements. "Today at 3. After that, we issue a polite but firm statement that you're declining all other interview requests and asking for privacy as you and your daughter return to your normal routine. And if they don't respect that?" Frank's expression hardened slightly. "Then they deal with me, and I'm a lot less polite when people don't listen the first time." The interview, when it happened, was as professional as Frank had promised. Diane Chen asked thoughtful questions about Noah's security background, his assessment of the situation at Megamart, and his perspective on civilian intervention in potentially dangerous situations. She respected the boundaries regarding Lily and Sarah, focusing instead on the professional aspects of the incident. "Many people are calling you a hero," she said toward the end of their allotted time. "How do you respond to that characterization?" Noah considered the question carefully. "I think hero gets overused these days. I was someone with specific training who recognized a dangerous situation and had the skills to intervene safely. I'd hope anyone with similar capabilities would make the same choice." But many wouldn't," Diane pressed gently. "Most people, even those with training, hesitate in crisis situations. What made you different?" The question cut closer to personal territory, but Noah sensed it was important to answer honestly. "My daughter was watching. Children learn by example more than instruction. I want Lily to grow up believing that when you have the capacity to help others, you have the responsibility to do so." As Frank had predicted, the single interview strategy worked remarkably well. Having obtained their official statement from the grocery store hero, most media outlets moved on to analyzing the corporate angle, Cross Technology's security failures, the rejected assessment, The questions about executive arrogance creating unnecessary vulnerability. By evening, Noah and Lily were able to return home, finding only two persistent reporters still camped at the end of their driveway. Frank had arranged for a security service to monitor their property for the next few days, ensuring no trespassing or harassment occurred. "Thank you," Noah told Frank as they stood in the kitchen of his small house, finally returned to normal after the whirlwind of attention. "For everything." Frank waved away the gratitude. "Marines help Marines, even the almost ones. Besides, you remind me of my son. Same quiet strength, same core principles." A shadow crossed the older man's face. "Lost him in Afghanistan 8 years ago. He'd have handled that supermarket situation exactly as you did." The revelation explained much about Frank's investment in helping him. Noah extended his hand. "I'm honored by the comparison." Frank shook it firmly. "My offer of consulting work still stands when you're ready. No pressure, just an option." He headed for the door, then paused. "Word of advice about your meeting with Cross tonight. Listen more than you talk. People like her aren't used to being vulnerable. If she's reaching out personally, there's more happening than just corporate damage control." After Frank left and Lily was happily reunited with her plants and Bear's special blanket, Noah prepared for his meeting with Vivian. He chose casual but presentable clothing, jeans and a button-down shirt, deliberately avoiding anything that might suggest either deference or challenge. The coffee shop was quiet when he arrived, with only a few patrons scattered among the mismatched furniture. He selected a table in the back corner, positioned to see the entrance, while offering privacy from casual observation. Vivian Cross arrived exactly on time, dressed in a manner that surprised Noah. Gone were the power suits and intimidating heels. Instead, she wore simple dark jeans, a gray sweater, and minimal makeup. Her hair, usually styled in a sleek corporate bob, was pulled back in a casual ponytail. Without her CEO armor, she looked younger, more approachable, and noticeably uncomfortable. She spotted him immediately, making her way through the tables with purpose, but without her usual commanding presence. As she sat across from him, Noah noticed the faint shadows under her eyes, expertly concealed but visible up close, evidence of sleepless nights. "Thank you for meeting me," she began, hands wrapped around the coffee cup he'd ordered for her based on a remembered preference from her cross-tech office. "Especially given everything." Noah nodded, waiting. Frank's advice echoed in his mind. "Listen more than talk. Let her show her hand first." "I've rehearsed this conversation a dozen times since yesterday," Vivian admitted, a hint of self-deprecating humor in her voice. "Corporate training teaches you to prepare for every interaction, to control the narrative. But I keep coming back to the same question. Why did you help me?" The directness of the question deserved equal directness in response. "Because you needed help." "That's it? After how I treated you at Crosstech? After dismissing your security recommendations? The same ones that might have prevented the entire incident?" Noah considered his answer carefully. "Ms. Cross, Vivian, please. I think we're beyond titles at this point. Vivian, what happened at Megamart wasn't about our previous interaction. It wasn't about balancing scales or proving a point. It was about doing what was right in that specific moment." She studied him with an intensity that suggested she was looking for hidden motives, alternative explanations that would fit more neatly into her understanding of human behavior. "Most people act out of self-interest, Mr. Cole. They calculate advantage, even unconsciously." "Noah," he corrected gently, "and I'm not saying I'm some paragon of selfless virtue. But in that moment, the calculation was simple. I had the skills to help, you needed help, and my daughter was watching me make a choice about what kind of man I am." Vivian's expression shifted subtly, a flicker of something like recognition crossing her features. "Your daughter, Lily, right? How is she handling all this attention?" The question seemed genuine, not a corporate platitude or social nicety. "She's resilient. Children often are. But she has questions I'm not always sure how to answer." "Like what?" "Like why the bad men wanted to hurt you, like why people on TV are saying mean things about your company, like whether you're going to be our friend now because I helped you." Noah smiled slightly at the last one, remembering Lily's drawing. Vivian's composure cracked momentarily, genuine surprise showing through. She asked if we'd be friends. In her world, that's how it works. You help someone, they become your friend. Simple. Nothing simple about it from where I sit. Vivian took a sip of her coffee, gathering her thoughts. The board is in damage control mode. The leaked security assessment has created a perception that I prioritize cost-cutting over safety, that my management style created unnecessary vulnerabilities. And did it? Noah asked, not unkindly. She met his gaze directly. Yes, among other things. The admission clearly cost her, running counter to years of corporate training about never admitting fault or weakness. Noah recognized the effort it represented. My security chief says you've been offered a consulting position, Vivian continued. Did Rebecca explain that I personally authorized the terms, including the educational fund for Lily? She mentioned it was separate from the job offer. It is. Regardless of whether you work with Crosstech, that fund is established. It's not a bribe or an inducement. It's, she hesitated, seeming to search for the right words. It's acknowledgement. Of what? Of the fact that I was wrong, about your security assessment, about dismissing your concerns, about treating you like you were beneath notice when you were trying to prevent exactly what happened yesterday. The admission hung between them, simple but profound. Noah had expected corporate spin, careful phrasing that acknowledged without accepting responsibility. This straightforward acceptance of error was unexpected. The thing is, Vivian continued after a moment, that wasn't an isolated incident. The board has been collecting examples of my, let's call it, executive abrasiveness for months. The way I spoke to you was apparently typical of how I treat support staff and contractors. The security incident just brought it all to a head. Noah listened, sensing there was more beneath this confession, something driving this uncharacteristic vulnerability. The board has given me an ultimatum, Vivian revealed, her voice controlled, but with an undercurrent of tension. Demonstrate meaningful change in my leadership approach, or step down as CEO by the end of the quarter. The revelation explained much about this meeting, about the personal approach rather than corporate representatives. Vivian Cross wasn't just facing public embarrassment or corporate damage control. She was fighting for her professional survival. That seems harsh, Noah observed neutrally. Vivian's laugh held little humor. Actually, it's fair. I built Crosstech from nothing, took risks no one else would, drove innovation that transformed medical diagnostics. But somewhere along the way, I started believing that results justified methods, that treating people as tools rather than colleagues was acceptable if it delivered outcomes. She ran a finger around the rim of her coffee cup, a rare gesture of uncertainty from someone known for decisive action. The irony is that I came from nothing, grew up in subsidized housing with a single mother working 3 jobs. I know what it's like to be invisible, to have people look through you rather than at you. Yet somehow I became exactly the kind of person I used to resent. The personal revelation surprised Noah. Nothing in Vivian's public profile suggested this background. She had always been presented as the brilliant wunderkind of tech, the natural genius whose rise was inevitable rather than hard-won. Why are you telling me this? Noah asked finally. Because I need your help again, Vivian admitted, not with physical safety this time, but with something more fundamental. I need someone who will tell me the truth, someone who sees people clearly, someone who understands both corporate security and human dignity. And you think that's me? Based on one incident and a rejected security assessment? Based on the fact that you helped someone who had treated you poorly without expectation of reward or recognition? Based on how you speak about your daughter and what you want her to learn from you? Based on the way you handled that crisis with minimal force and maximum awareness of everyone's safety? She leaned forward slightly. People reveal their true character in how they respond to pressure. You showed yours at Megamart. I showed mine by ignoring your warnings and treating you like you were disposable. Noah considered her words, remembering Gerald's suggestion that this situation might be an opportunity rather than just a disruption. What exactly are you asking me to do? Take the security consultant position, but with expanded scope. Yes, review and implement proper executive protection protocols, but also help me understand where my blind spots are, where my leadership style creates vulnerabilities rather than strengths. Be the person who tells me the truth when everyone else is too intimidated to speak up. It was a remarkable request from someone known for brooking no criticism. Either the board's ultimatum had truly shaken her, or Vivian Cross was even more calculating than her reputation suggested, using this moment of apparent vulnerability to manage the fallout from the kidnapping attempt. As if reading his skepticism, Vivian added, "I'm not asking for a friend, Noah. I'm asking for an honest mirror. Crosstech develops technology that saves lives. That mission matters to me. If protecting it means confronting my own flaws as a leader, then that's what I need to do. And I need someone who isn't afraid of me to help." The sincerity in her voice was compelling. Noah had spent his professional life reading people, assessing threats, recognizing deception. Everything in Vivian's manner suggested genuine concern rather than manipulation. "I'll consider it," he said finally, "but I need to be clear about my priorities. Lily comes first, always. My schedule has to accommodate her needs, not just cross-techs." "Absolutely. The terms Rebecca outlined stand. Flexible hours, remote work options, complete autonomy in setting your on-site schedule. And if it doesn't work out, if we discover that your leadership style and my approach to communication are fundamentally incompatible." Vivian nodded, accepting the concern as valid. "Then we part ways professionally, with no impact on Lily's educational fund and a generous severance package. I'm not asking for a lifetime commitment, Noah. I'm asking for a chance to prove that I can change, that cross-tech can be better than it was when you experienced it." As their conversation continued, delving into specifics of the position and expectations, Noah found himself reassessing Vivian Cross. The arrogant executive from his previous encounter was still there, in her precise language, her strategic thinking, her clear articulation of goals. But there was something else too, a glimpse of the determined woman who had risen from poverty to create a company that was genuinely changing lives through medical technology. By the time they parted, Noah had not given her a final answer, but had agreed to visit Crosstech the following week to discuss the position in more detail. As they stood to leave, Vivian hesitated, then extended her hand. "Thank you, Noah, for the conversation, for considering the position, and for what you did at Megamart. I haven't said it properly yet. You saved my life. I won't forget that." Noah shook her hand, noting the firm grip and direct eye contact, the handshake of someone accustomed to operating in male-dominated environments where any sign of weakness was exploited. "You're welcome, Vivian. I hope your board gives you the chance to make the changes you're contemplating." She smiled slightly. "They will if I have concrete evidence of change. Having you on board would be exactly that kind of evidence." As Noah watched her leave, he reflected on the complexity of the situation. What had begun as a simple grocery trip with his daughter had cascaded into a viral video, media attention, job offers, and now this unusual proposal from the very CEO whose dismissive treatment had been part of the viral narrative. Life rarely moved in straight lines, but this particular curve had been unexpected by anyone's standards. Driving home, Noah considered what accepting the position might mean. Beyond the practical benefits, better pay, flexible hours, no more night shifts, it represented a return to using skills he'd set aside after Sarah's death. A chance to rebuild a career rather than just maintain a job. An opportunity to show Lily that her father was more than just a provider and protector. He was also someone who could help shape organizations, influence leaders, make systems better for everyone involved. As he pulled into his driveway, Noah noticed the security service Frank had arranged still monitoring the property, but the media presence had dwindled to a single van from a local station. Progress already. Frank's strategy was working. Inside, he found Barbara reading a story to Lily, who was already in her pajamas, bear clutched firmly against her chest. The scene of domestic tranquility, grandmother and granddaughter sharing a quiet evening moment, reminded Noah of what remained constant amid all the changes swirling around them. "Everything okay with your meeting?" Barbara asked as Noah kissed Lily's forehead. "I think so. It was unexpected." Lily looked up from her book. "Did you see the CEO lady? Is she our friend now?" The innocent question brought a smile to Noah's face. "We're working on it, sweetheart. These things take time." "But you helped her, so she should be nice now," Lily insisted with a child's straightforward logic. "Sometimes people need more than one lesson," Noah explained gently. "Like when you're learning to tie your shoes or write your letters. You don't get it perfect the first time, right? Lily considered this analogy. So the CEO lady is learning to be nice and it might take practice? Something like that. I could help teach her, Lily offered earnestly. I'm very good at being nice. Barbara chuckled softly, exchanging an amused glance with Noah. You certainly are, my dear. Now, one more page before bedtime. As Barbara continued reading, Noah checked his phone to find a text message from Frank. Interview went well. National Morning is running it as their lead tomorrow. You came across exactly right. Competent, modest, principled. The narrative is shifting from disgruntled employee saves ungrateful CEO to trained professional prevents corporate espionage. Much better for everyone involved. A second text followed. How did the meeting with Cross go? Noah typed back. Surprisingly well. She's offering more than just a security position. Wants help changing leadership culture. Seems genuine. Frank's response came quickly. Interesting. Crisis often creates clarity. Some people actually learn from their mistakes. Not many, but some. Worth exploring? I think so, Noah replied. Visiting Crosstech next week to discuss details. Good. Let me know if you need backup. And don't forget my offer still stands, regardless of what you decide with Across. Noah set down his phone, listening to the gentle cadence of Barbara's voice as she finished the story, watching Lily's eyes grow heavy with approaching sleep. Whatever decision he made would affect not just him, but this precious child who trusted him to build a secure, meaningful life for them both. 2 years of focusing solely on stability and safety had given Lily what she needed most after losing her mother. A father who was present, reliable, and consistently loving. Perhaps now it was time to show her something else. A father who engaged with the larger world, who used all his skills and talents, who helped others become better versions of themselves. As Barbara closed the book and Lily's eyes finally drifted shut, Noah made his decision. He would accept Vivian's offer, not just for the practical benefits, but for the opportunity it represented. A chance to step back into a role where he could make a broader difference, where his particular combination of technical knowledge and human insight could help transform a corporate culture that affected thousands of employees and millions of patients who relied on Crosstech's medical innovations. Sarah would have approved, he thought. She had always believed in second chances, in the possibility of growth and change. She would have seen past Vivian's corporate armor to the determined woman who had risen from poverty and was now facing her own moment of truth about what kind of leader, what kind of person she wanted to be. Tomorrow would bring new challenges, media attention to manage, a position to formally accept, a new professional identity to construct. But for tonight, Noah was content to watch his daughter sleep, to acknowledge how far they had come since those dark days after Sarah's death, and to feel, for the first time in years, a sense of possibility rather than just responsibility. The red yarn bracelet Lily had made him still circled his wrist, a constant reminder of what mattered most. But perhaps it could also serve as a reminder that courage took many forms. Sometimes it meant confronting physical danger in a supermarket aisle, and sometimes it meant opening oneself to new possibilities after years of careful retreat. The investigation revealed that the kidnapping attempt was part of corporate espionage targeting Crosstech's latest patents. The attackers were hired professionals working for a competitor trying to force Vivian to reveal trade secrets. Noah's documentation and evidence made the case airtight within days. Meanwhile, Crosstech's board of directors was dealing with their own crisis. The viral footage had exposed more than just a kidnapping attempt. Social media users had quickly identified both Noah and Vivian, digging up the history of her dismissive treatment of contract workers. Comments and interviews from former employees painted a picture of a CEO who regularly belittled support staff. She treated people like they were invisible, one former IT contractor told a news reporter, and now the invisible guy saved her life. The board called an emergency meeting within 48 hours. Ms. Cross, the chairman said coldly, this incident has revealed serious concerns about your leadership style and decision-making. The security consultant you dismissed as unnecessary IT support just prevented your kidnapping and provided evidence that solved a corporate espionage case. Vivian sat silently as the board reviewed Noah's original contract proposals, which had included comprehensive security assessments that she'd rejected as overpriced and unnecessary. You chose to save money on security and treated our contractors with contempt, another board member added. Both decisions nearly cost you your life and exposed our company to industrial espionage. The ultimatum was clear: demonstrate meaningful change in leadership approach by the end of the quarter, or step down as CEO. For the first time in her career, Vivian Cross faced a professional crisis she couldn't simply power through with brilliance and determination. Noah, meanwhile, was wrestling with his own decision. After meeting with Vivian and seeing her genuine desire to change, he had tentatively agreed to accept the security consultant position with expanded scope. Now, 3 days later, he stood in front of Cross Technologies' gleaming headquarters, Lily's educational fund paperwork completed and signed, employment contract in his hand, ready to begin his first official day. The security guard at reception did a double take when Noah presented his new credentials. "You're the guy from the supermarket," he said, eyes widening in recognition. "The one who saved Ms. Cross with the soda bottles." Noah nodded, already growing accustomed to these moments of recognition. "That's me." "Man, what you did." The guard shook his head in admiration. "I've been in security 15 years and don't know if I'd have had the presence of mind to handle it that way." "Respect, sir." "Just applied my training," Noah replied modestly. "Still," the guard handed back his credentials with something like reverence. "They're expecting you on the executive floor. Elevator to your right." As Noah rode up to the top floor of the building, he reflected on how differently he was being treated compared to his previous contract work at Crosstech. Then he had been barely noticed, accessing the building through service entrances, working in server rooms, and under desks, invisible to the executives whose technology he maintained. Now he was heading to the executive floor with an access badge that opened every door in the building. Rebecca Winters was waiting when the elevator doors opened. The security chief's expression was professional, but genuinely pleased. "Welcome aboard, Noah. Glad you decided to join us." She extended her hand, which Noah shook firmly. "Your office is ready, security credentials are fully activated, and Ms. Cross is expecting you at 10 for your first consultation." Noah followed Rebecca down a hallway lined with glass-walled offices, noting that his new colleagues were trying not to stare at him. The grocery store hero had apparently achieved minor celebrity status even within Crosstech. His office, an actual office, not a cubicle or shared workspace, was surprisingly comfortable. Large windows offered a view of the city, the furniture was ergonomic and high quality, and a state-of-the-art computer setup awaited his customization. "This seems excessive for a consultant," Noah commented, setting down his modest briefcase on the desk. Rebecca's expression turned slightly apologetic. "Vivian insisted, said if we're asking you to help transform executive culture, you need to operate from a position of equal status, hence the corner office on the executive floor." The symbolism wasn't subtle. Vivian was making a statement to her entire organization about Noah's role and importance, perhaps overcompensating for her previous dismissive treatment. "There's one more thing," Rebecca added, handing him a tablet. "Your first assignment, directly from Vivian. She wants a comprehensive security review, focusing initially on executive protection protocols, but eventually expanding to all aspects of corporate security." Noah scrolled through the document, noting the extraordinary scope and authority he was being granted. The contract he'd signed and gave him oversight of physical security, information systems protection, and even human resources policies related to staff safety. It was far beyond what he had expected. "This is extensive," he said, trying to mask his surprise. The board insisted on full authorization. After what happened at Megamart, they don't want any half measures. Rebecca's professional demeanor slipped slightly, allowing a hint of candor. "Between us, they're using this opportunity to rein in Vivian's more autocratic tendencies. Your role represents a check on her authority that didn't exist before." Noah frowned. "I didn't agree to be a corporate pawn in boardroom politics." "Which is exactly why they want you," Rebecca replied. "You're the one person who has demonstrated both the ability to stand up to Vivian and a genuine interest in protecting her. That's a unique combination." Before Noah could respond, his phone buzzed with a text from the after-school program where Lily spent afternoons while he worked. New pickup time confirmed. Have a great first day, Mr. Cole. The simple message grounded him, reminding him why he had accepted this position. Not for the prestige or the politics, but for the practical benefits it offered to his family. Flexible hours that aligned with Lily's schedule, excellent compensation, and the security of knowing her education was provided for. I should prepare for my meeting with Ms. Cross, Noah said, effectively ending the conversation. Rebecca nodded, recognizing his desire to process this information privately. Of course, my team is at your disposal if you need anything. And Noah, despite the politics, this is a good thing you are doing. Cross-Tech develops technology that saves lives, making the company safer and healthier benefits everyone. After she left, Noah spent the next hour reviewing security protocols, comparing them with his original assessment from 6 months ago. Little had changed since then. The same vulnerabilities existed, the same procedural gaps, the same over-reliance on reactive rather than preventive measures. At precisely 10 o'clock, his phone buzzed with a message from Vivian's assistant. Mr. Cross is ready for you now. The CEO's office occupied the corner of the executive floor, with floor-to-ceiling windows offering panoramic views of the city. When Noah entered, Vivian was standing at the window, gazing out at the urban landscape. She turned as the door opened, and Noah was struck by the transformation since their coffee shop meeting. Gone was the casual, vulnerable woman in jeans and a sweater. This Vivian Cross was back in full CEO mode, impeccably tailored suit, perfect makeup, not a hair out of place. Yet something was different from his previous encounters with her. Perhaps it was the way she genuinely smiled at his arrival, or how she stepped forward to greet him rather than remaining behind her desk. Noah, thank you for coming on board. How are you finding everything so far? The office is more than adequate, he replied diplomatically, though I'm not sure I need quite so much prominence. Vivian's expression revealed understanding. The location and size are deliberate, I'm afraid. The board and I agreed that your position needs to visibly demonstrate our commitment to security and to a new corporate culture. Optics matter in situations like this. I noticed that the security protocols haven't changed since my original assessment, Noah said, getting directly to business. Despite what happened at Megamart, Vivian gestured for him to take a seat in the comfortable chair across from her desk. That's why you're here. We need your expertise to implement those changes correctly. She sat as well, maintaining eye contact rather than returning to her computer as she had during their previous professional interactions. Where do you recommend we start? Noah appreciated the direct approach. Executive protection needs immediate attention. The kidnapping attempt was sophisticated and well-planned. We got lucky at Megamart, but we need to ensure it can't happen again in any setting. Agreed. What do you need from me? Complete transparency about your schedule, movements, and potential threats, and a willingness to accept protective measures that might sometimes feel restrictive or inconvenient. Vivian nodded, accepting these terms without argument, a notable change from her previous resistance to security recommendations. Done. What else? I'd like to interview Jason Mercer. The request clearly surprised her. The man who tried to kidnap me? He was a security professional before this incident. I trained him years ago. Understanding how he went from that to corporate espionage might reveal vulnerabilities in our industry that we haven't considered. Vivian studied him for a moment, then nodded slowly. I'll have legal arrange it. The authorities have him in custody pending trial, but we can request an interview as part of our security review. The meeting continued for nearly an hour, with Noah outlining his initial priorities and Vivian asking thoughtful, relevant questions. Unlike their previous professional interactions, she listened attentively, acknowledging his expertise rather than dismissing his concerns. The change was subtle but significant, a CEO genuinely engaging with input rather than merely tolerating it. As their discussion wound down, Vivian hesitated, then asked, "How is Lily adjusting to all this? The media attention, your new position, the changes in your routine?" The personal question caught Noah off guard. She's adaptable. Children often are. She's excited about my important new job, helping the CEO lady learn to be nice, he added with a slight smile. Vivian winced. Out of the mouths of babes. She's not wrong, is she? Lily tends to see things clearly. It's a gift. I'd like to meet her someday, Vivian said, then immediately added, not as a PR stunt or photo opportunity, just, she sounds remarkable. Noah considered the request. Perhaps, once things settle down. The meeting concluded with clear next steps and scheduled follow-ups. As Noah returned to his office to begin drafting his comprehensive security plan, he reflected on the noticeable difference in Vivian's approach. Whether motivated by genuine change or professional self-preservation, she was at least making the effort to engage differently with those around her. Over the following weeks, Noah established a new routine. Mornings at Crosstech implementing security protocols and training staff. Afternoons often working remotely to be available when Lily returned from school. The flexibility Vivian had promised proved genuine, with the entire organization quickly adapting to accommodate his schedule. His interview with Jason Mercer proved enlightening but disturbing. The former security professional had indeed fallen on hard times after budget cuts eliminated his position. With a mortgage underwater and a son needing specialized medical care, he had become vulnerable to recruitment by corporate espionage operatives. They knew exactly how to target me, Mercer admitted during their prison interview. They had data on my financial situation, my son's medical needs, everything. It was like they had a playbook for turning desperate security professionals into assets. The revelation prompted Noah to add a new element to his security assessment: vulnerability screening for all security personnel, with support systems for those facing personal crises. It wasn't just about preventing potential insider threats. It was about protecting people from being exploited during their most vulnerable moments. Vivian approved the initiative immediately, adding resources beyond what Noah had requested. We should extend this to all employees, not just security personnel, she suggested. Financial hardship and personal crisis can make anyone vulnerable to exploitation. The proposal showed a level of empathy and foresight that surprised Noah. When he mentioned this to Frank Donovan during one of their regular check-in coffees, the retired Marine nodded thoughtfully. Near-death experiences change people, Frank observed. Some get defensive, double down on control. Others have genuine epiphanies about what matters. Sounds like your CEO might be in the second category. Maybe, Noah acknowledged, still cautious about attributing too much transformation to Vivian too quickly. Or maybe she's just very good at playing the role the board needs to see right now. Time will tell, Frank said. Always does. The most significant test of Vivian's commitment to change came 6 weeks into Noah's tenure at Crosstech. The company was preparing to announce a breakthrough in their medical diagnostic technology, a portable device that could detect early markers of pancreatic cancer from a simple blood test, potentially saving thousands of lives through early intervention. The announcement event would be Vivian's first major public appearance since the kidnapping attempt. Security planning was extensive, with Noah personally overseeing every detail. 2 days before the event, Vivian called him into her office. I've been reviewing the security protocols for Thursday's announcement, she began, gesturing to the documents on her desk. They're extremely thorough. That's the idea, Noah replied, sensing there was more to this conversation than simple acknowledgement. They're also extremely visible, Vivian continued. Security personnel everywhere, restricted access, metal detectors, the work. After what happened at Megamart, I know, she interrupted. The precautions are justified, but they send a message of fear rather than confidence. This announcement should be about hope, a medical breakthrough that will save lives. Instead, it'll look like a fortress. Noah considered her perspective. What are you suggesting? A balance. Maintain the core security measures, but make them less obvious. I don't want patients and medical professionals walking into what feels like a military checkpoint. 6 weeks ago, this would have been a directive rather than a discussion. The old Vivian would have simply overruled his security plans with corporate authority. This Vivian was engaging, explaining her concerns, seeking compromise rather than demanding compliance. We can adjust the visible elements, Noah said after careful consideration. Keep the essential protections in place, but make them more discreet. It will require additional planning and probably more personnel behind the scenes. Whatever resources you need, Vivian agreed immediately. And thank you for considering the emotional impact of security measures, not just their effectiveness. The exchange left Noah thoughtful. It represented exactly the kind of balanced leadership he had hoped to encourage, concern for public perception and emotional experience alongside practical security considerations. Vivian was demonstrating growth, finding middle ground between the dismissive arrogance of the past and the excessive caution that might have emerged after her traumatic experience. The announcement event proceeded flawlessly. Security was present but unobtrusive. The medical breakthrough took center stage, and Vivian delivered a compelling presentation that emphasized the technology's life-saving potential without excessive corporate promotion. Most notably, she specifically acknowledged the team of researchers and developers who had created the technology, bringing them on stage for recognition rather than claiming the spotlight exclusively. That evening, as Noah was reviewing security logs from the event, he received an unexpected text message from Vivian. "Successful day. None of it would have happened without your intervention at Megamart. Thank you again." The simple acknowledgement was another sign of change, a CEO taking a moment for personal gratitude rather than moving immediately to the next challenge or opportunity. Noah showed the message to Lily as he tucked her into bed that night. "See," she said with 8-year-old certainty, "the CEO lady is learning to be nice, just like I said." "It seems that way," Noah agreed, smiling at his daughter's straightforward assessment. "Does that make you happy, Daddy?" The question gave him pause. Did it make him happy to see Vivian changing, to know that his work was contributing to a healthier corporate culture, to witness someone learning and growing from a traumatic experience? Yes, he realized. It does make me happy. It's good to see people change for the better. Lily nodded sagely. Mommy always said people can change if they really want to. She told me that's why she became a doctor, to help people change from sick to better. The mention of Sarah and her medical career brought a bittersweet smile to Noah's face. Your mommy was very wise. I think she would like the CEO lady learning to be nice, Lily added, snuggling deeper under her covers. And she'd be happy you're helping people at work instead of just fixing computers. Out of the mouths of babes, indeed, Noah thought as he kissed his daughter goodnight. In her innocent way, Lily had articulated something he had been feeling, but hadn't fully acknowledged. That his new role at Crosstech connected him to Sarah's legacy of helping others in a way that his previous IT work had not. The 3-month mark of Noah's employment at Crosstech coincided with the board's deadline for evaluating Vivian's leadership changes. The day before the board meeting, she invited Noah to lunch outside the office, a small bistro several blocks from headquarters where they could speak privately. Tomorrow's the moment of truth, she said after they had ordered. The board reviews my progress and decides whether I remain as CEO. Noah nodded. How do you think it will go? Objectively, the metrics are positive. Employee satisfaction up 22%, retention improved, security protocols strengthened without impeding innovation, the new diagnostic technology launching ahead of schedule. She twisted her water glass slowly, a rare gesture of nervousness. But boards aren't always objective. There are members who've wanted me gone for years, who see me as too controlling, too focused on my vision rather than shareholder value. And what do you think? Noah asked. Forget the board for a moment. How would you evaluate your own progress? The question seemed to surprise her. Vivian sat back, truly considering it rather than offering a prepared response. I've changed, she said finally, not just professionally but personally. The kidnapping attempt, it forced me to confront how alone I've become, how I've pushed people away in pursuit of corporate goals, how I've confused respect with fear. She met Noah's gaze directly. I'm not perfect. I still have moments of impatience, times when I want to just overrule objections rather than listen. But I'm trying, and I think the company is better for it. I agree, ma'am, Noah said simply. Vivian's eyebrows rose slightly. You do? I thought you were still reserving judgment on whether my changes were genuine or just self-preservation. I was, he admitted, for quite a while. But I've watched you these past 3 months, not just in our meetings or public events, but in how you interact with employees at all levels. The change is real, whether the board recognizes it or not. Relief washed across Vivian's features. That means more than you might realize. Your opinion carries weight because you've seen both versions of me, the CEO who dismissed you 6 months ago and the leader I'm trying to become now. Their conversation shifted to lighter topics, Lily's latest school project, Vivian's newfound interest in community volunteering, Noah's ongoing consulting work with Frank Donovan's security firm. By the time lunch concluded, the professional barrier between them had thinned further, allowing a genuine connection that would have seemed impossible months earlier. The next morning, Noah arrived at Crosstech to find the executive floor humming with tension. The board meeting was scheduled for 10, and Vivian had been sequestered with her executive team since 7, preparing final presentations in evidence of her leadership transformation. At 9:45, Noah's phone buzzed with a message from Vivian. "They want to hear from you. Can you join us?" The request wasn't entirely unexpected. As the catalyst for many of the recent changes at Crosstech, Noah's perspective would naturally interest the board. Still, being called into a meeting that would determine the company's leadership was far beyond his anticipated role as security consultant. The boardroom fell silent when he entered. 14 people sat around a massive table, with Vivian at one end and Chairman Douglas at the other. All eyes turned to Noah, evaluating, assessing. "Mr. Cole," Douglas began formally, "thank you for joining us. The board has been reviewing Ms. Cross's leadership changes over the past quarter, following the incident at Megamart. As someone who has worked closely with her during this period and who experienced her previous management and style firsthand, your perspective would be valuable." Noah took the empty seat they indicated, aware that his words could significantly impact Vivian's future. He glanced briefly in her direction, noting the composed expression that couldn't quite mask her tension. "What would you like to know specifically?" Noah asked, addressing the entire board rather than just the chairman. "Has Vivian Cross genuinely changed as a leader?" one of the board members asked bluntly. "Or is this simply damage control following a public relations disaster?" The directness of the question deserved equal directness in response. "When I first joined Crosstech as a security consultant 3 months ago, I was skeptical," Noah admitted. "Ms. Cross had previously dismissed my security recommendations and treated me as essentially invisible. I had little reason to believe any change would be substantial or lasting." He paused, aware of Vivian's carefully controlled breathing across the table. "I was wrong," he continued. "The changes I've witnessed aren't superficial adjustments to appease the board or manage public perception. They represent a fundamental shift in leadership approach. Cross now actively solicits input from all levels of the organization, balances security concerns with innovation needs, and has created a corporate culture where people feel valued rather than merely utilized." Another board member leaned forward. "Can you provide specific examples?" Noah nodded, proceeding to outline several instances where Vivian had demonstrated genuine change. The Vulnerabilities support program for employees, her balanced approach to the technology announcement security, her willingness to share credit with research teams rather than claiming spotlight. Most significantly, he concluded, she's created an environment where people can speak truth to power without fear of retaliation. That's the foundation of both good security and good leadership. The questioning continued for nearly 30 minutes, with board members probing for details about specific initiatives and changes. Throughout, Noah provided honest, balanced assessments, acknowledging areas still needing improvement while emphasizing the substantial progress already achieved. Finally, Chairman Douglas thanked him for his input and suggested he could return to his regular duties while the board deliberated. As Noah rose to leave, he caught Vivian's eye briefly. Her expression conveyed both gratitude and a vulnerability rarely visible in her public persona. 3 hours later, a company-wide email announced the board's decision. Vivian Cross would remain as CEO, with certain structural changes to ensure the positive leadership evolution continued. An executive coaching program would be implemented for all senior leaders. The employee support initiatives would receive expanded funding, and Noah's security consultancy would be extended into a permanent executive position. Chief Security Officer, reporting directly to the board as well as to Vivian. The news spread quickly through the organization, with many employees stopping by Noah's office to congratulate him on the promotion. He accepted their good wishes graciously while trying to maintain focus on completing the security protocol updates he'd been working on when the announcement came through. At 5 o'clock, as he was preparing to leave for the day to pick up Lily from her after-school program, his office door opened to reveal Vivian. "Do you have a minute?" she asked, her professional demeanor now relaxed, the tension of the day's events finally dissipating. Of course, Noah replied, gesturing to the chair across from his desk. Congratulations on the board's decision. Thank you, both for that and for your testimony today. Vivian sat, smoothing her skirt in a rare nervous gesture. You could have been much more critical. The board would have understood, given our history. I told the truth, Noah said simply. The changes you've made are real and significant. The board made the right decision. They're offering you a permanent executive position. Chief Security Officer. Noah nodded. I saw the email. It's a generous offer, but I need to think about it. Vivian looked genuinely surprised. You're considering declining? The compensation package is exceptional. The role would give you influence at the highest levels of the organization, and you'd maintain all the flexibility for Lily's schedule. It's not about the terms, Noah explained. It's about what's right for both Crosstech and for me long term. I need to be sure this is where I can contribute most effectively. Understanding dawned in Vivian's expression. You're concerned about becoming too integrated into the corporate hierarchy, losing your independence and objectivity. Partly, Noah acknowledged. The value I bring is partly because I'm not fully embedded in corporate culture or politics. Making me an executive risks changing that dynamic. Vivian considered his perspective thoughtfully. What if we structured it differently? Keep the consulting arrangement, but with guaranteed tenure and board-level reporting. You maintain independence while still having the authority and resources to implement necessary changes. The suggestion showed how well Vivian had come to understand both Noah's concerns and his professional values. That could work, he agreed. I'll need to review the specifics, but the approach makes sense. Good. Vivian's relief was evident. I'll have legal draft the revised proposal tomorrow. She hesitated, then added, there's something else I wanted to discuss, something more personal. Noah raised an eyebrow in silent question. The company's annual charity gala is next month. It benefits pediatric cancer research. I was wondering if you and Lily might attend as my personal guests. The invitation caught Noah by surprise. The Crosstech Charity Gala was a major social event, attracting celebrities, politicians, and business leaders from across the country. It was decidedly not the kind of function where IT contractors turned security consultants typically appeared, much less their 8-year-old daughters. It's not a professional obligation, Vivian clarified, perhaps misreading his hesitation. Just, I thought Lily might enjoy seeing the science demonstrations we set up for the children's area. And I'd like the opportunity to meet her properly, not just as the CEO lady from her drawing. The request seemed genuinely personal rather than professionally motivated. Noah considered what it might mean for Lily. An exciting evening seeing cutting-edge technology demonstrations, the chance to dress up for a special occasion, an opportunity to meet the woman whose life her father had saved. But also potential media attention, exposure to a world of wealth and privilege far removed from their modest life, and implications about Noah and Vivian's relationship that might arise from such an appearance. Let me think about it, he said finally, and discuss it with Lily. It should be her choice too. Vivian nodded, accepting this reasonable approach. Of course, the invitation remains open. As she rose to leave, she paused at the door. Noah, thank you, not just for today, but for everything since Megamart. You've helped me become a better leader, and I think, a better person. After she departed, Noah sat quietly in his office, reflecting on the extraordinary journey of the past 3 months. From invisible IT contractor to prospective chief security officer. From the man who couldn't afford a small teddy bear without careful budgeting to someone being invited to elite charity galas. From a life carefully constructed around minimizing risk to one now opening to new possibilities. Later that evening, after Lily was bathed and in her pajamas but before bedtime stories, Noah broached the subject of the charity gala. Sweetheart, I've been invited to a special party for my work, and they said you could come too if you wanted. It's very fancy, with beautiful dresses and science experiments for kids to see. Lily's eyes widened with interest. Like a princess party? Sort of, Noah smiled. It's to raise money for sick children, to help doctors find ways to make them better. Like Mommy did? Yes, exactly like Mommy did. Lily considered this seriously. Would I get to wear a pretty dress? The prettiest dress we can find, Noah assured her. Would there be other kids there too? Yes, children of other people who work at the company or who are helping with the charity. Lily nodded, processing this information with characteristic thoughtfulness. Then she asked the question Noah had been anticipating. Will the CEO lady be there? The one you saved at the store? Yes, she will. In fact, she's the one who invited us. She'd like to meet you properly. Lily's expression turned solemn. Is she really being nicer now, like in my drawing? She is, Noah confirmed. She's worked very hard to change how she treats people. Your drawing helped to remind her what's important. This seemed to satisfy Lily. Then I want to go. I want to meet her and see if she's learned to be nice like I said. The simple, direct evaluation criteria, has she learned to be nice, made Noah smile. If only all of life's complex situations could be assessed through the clear lens of a child's values. Then we'll go, he said, pulling his daughter close for a hug, and you can be the judge of how well she's learned her lesson. The night of the charity gala arrived with excitement and minor nervous energy. Lily twirled in her new dress, a modest but beautiful blue creation that matched her eyes and featured just enough sparkle to satisfy her princess aspirations without being excessively formal. Noah adjusted his tie, feeling slightly uncomfortable in the new suit, but appreciating that it fit properly, unlike the off-the-rack version he'd worn for job interviews after Sarah's death. Frank and his wife Margaret had offered to drive them to the event, providing both moral support and a buffer against the media attention that might still accompany Noah's public appearances. You clean up nice, Cole, Frank observed as they pulled away from Noah's house. Both of you do. You look like a superhero princess, Margaret told Lily, who beamed at the creative compliment. Daddy says I can decide if the CEO lady has really learned to be nice, Lily informed them seriously. I'm going to watch very carefully. Frank chuckled. Best judge of character I know. Kids see right through the pretense. The gala was being held at the city's Natural Science Museum, transformed for the evening into an elegant venue with sophisticated lighting, floral arrangements, and research displays highlighting cross-text medical innovations. As their car approached the entrance, Noah noticed the red carpet, the photographers, the line of celebrities and business leaders posing for pictures. We can use the side entrance, he told Frank quickly. No need for all that. Actually, Frank replied, Vivian specifically requested you use the main entrance. Said something about making a statement about valuing all levels of the organization. Before Noah could protest, their car had pulled up to the designated drop-off point. A uniformed attendant opened the door, and suddenly they were stepping onto the red carpet, cameras flashing as photographers recognized the grocery store hero and his daughter. Noah kept a protective arm around Lily as they moved quickly through the gauntlet, ignoring shouted questions and requests to pose. Just as they reached the museum doors, Vivian appeared, elegant in a simple black gown that managed to be both appropriate for a CEO and genuinely flattering. Noah, Lily, welcome, she greeted them warmly, with none of the corporate distance that had characterized their earlier interactions. I'm so glad you could come. Lily, momentarily shy in the face of all the attention and the presence of the CEO lady from her drawing, pressed closer to Noah's side. Vivian immediately knelt down to Lily's eye level, a gesture that surprised both Noah and the hovering photographers. Hello, Lily, I love your dress. Blue is my favorite color, too. The simple, genuine connection, adult to child rather than CEO to employee's daughter, seemed to ease Lily's hesitation. Are you really being nicer to people now? She asked directly, with the unfiltered honesty only children can manage. A ripple of surprise and awkward laughter moved through the nearby guests who overheard, but Vivian didn't flinch or deflect. Instead, she nodded seriously. I'm trying very hard, she replied. Your daddy has been helping me learn how to be a better leader and a kinder person. Do you think he's a good teacher? Lily nodded emphatically. The best. He teaches me all about being brave and helping people even when it's hard. Then I'm very lucky to have him helping me too, Vivian said, rising to her feet but maintaining eye contact with Lily. Would you like to see the special science exhibits we set up? There's one that shows how doctors can see inside the body without hurting anyone, and another that lets you control a mini robot that helps doctors perform operations. Lily's eyes widened with excitement. Yes, please. Vivian looked to Noah, silently asking permission to escort his daughter to the children's area. He nodded, recognizing that this interaction wasn't about corporate politics or public relations. It was a genuine attempt to connect with a child who had unknowingly played a role in her transformation. As Vivian led Lily toward the exhibits, with Noah following a few steps behind, he noticed how naturally the CEO interacted with his daughter, asking questions, listening attentively to Lily's answers, pointing out interesting details at the child's eye level. There was none of the awkward condescension adults often displayed when trying to communicate with children they didn't know well. The evening progressed with surprising ease. Lily was entranced by the scientific demonstrations, particularly those related to medical imaging and diagnostic technologies. Vivian introduced Noah to key research partners and philanthropic donors, positioning him as a valued security expert rather than subordinate. And throughout it all, there was a natural, comfortable dynamic between the three of them that would have seemed impossible months earlier. During a quiet moment when Lily was engaged with an interactive display, Vivian spoke softly to Noah. She's remarkable, so intelligent, so perceptive, so genuine. You're doing an amazing job raising her. Thank you, Noah replied, watching his daughter's concentrated expression as she carefully manipulated the controls of a miniature surgical robot. She makes it easy most days, sees the world so clearly. She has a drawing in the children's gallery, Vivian revealed, the one you mentioned, with the three of us holding hands. I asked her if I could display it alongside the professional artwork we commissioned for the event. She said yes, but only if we put a sign saying people can learn to be nice if they really try. Noah laughed softly. That sounds like Lily. I approved the exact wording, Vivian said with a smile. It's actually become quite a conversation piece. Several donors have commented on the profound wisdom of children. As the evening drew to a close, Lily's energy began to fade despite her determination to see everything. Noah found her yawning beside an exhibit on cellular regeneration, her eyes growing heavy despite her interest in the colorful displays. I think it's time to head home, sweetheart, he said gently. But I haven't seen everything yet, Lily protested even as she leaned against him tiredly. The exhibits will still be here, Vivian assured her. In fact, I'd be happy to arrange a private tour sometime when you're not so tired. Maybe on a weekend when you and your daddy can spend as much time as you want exploring. The offer wasn't empty courtesy. Noah could hear the genuine invitation in Vivian's voice, another indication of how far they had come from their first encounter at Crosstech. As they said their goodbyes and made their way to where Frank was waiting to drive them home, Lily tugged on Noah's hand. Daddy? Yes, sweetheart? I think the CEO lady really did learn to be nice. She listens now, and she looks at people's faces when they talk, and she doesn't act like she's more important than everyone else. The simple, accurate assessment summarized months of complex change in terms an 8-year-old could understand. I think you're right, Noah agreed. She's learned a lot. So we can be friends now? Like in my drawing. The question contained layers of meaning that Lily couldn't fully comprehend, about professional boundaries, about personal relationships developing from workplace connections, about the complexities of adult friendships. I think we already are becoming friends, Noah said truthfully. Not just because of what happened at the store, but because we've gotten to know each other better since then. This answer seemed to satisfy Lily, who nodded sleepily before climbing into Frank's car. As Noah buckled her in, Frank gave him a knowing look. Quite an evening, the older man observed. The CEO seems to have taken quite a shine to both of you. Noah just nodded, not yet ready to examine all the implications of the evening's easy camaraderie and genuine connections. As they drove home through the quiet city streets, Lily fell asleep against Noah's shoulder, peaceful and content after her adventure in the world of science and elegance. Noah gazed out at the passing streetlights, reflecting on the extraordinary journey that had begun with a simple shopping trip 3 months ago. His life had transformed in ways he could never have anticipated, professionally, personally, even his sense of purpose and possibility. The carefully constructed barriers he had built after Sarah's death, designed to create safety and predictability, had gradually given way to something more open, more connected, more alive. And Lily, his brave, perceptive, remarkable daughter, was flourishing amid these changes. Her drawing of 3 figures holding hands, displayed prominently in a gallery of professional artwork, seemed both prophetic and symbolic of the unexpected connections that could form when people remained open to change and growth. Tomorrow would bring new challenges. The revised employment agreement to consider, security protocols to implement, the continuing evolution of cross-text corporate culture. But for tonight, Noah was content to hold his sleeping daughter, to remember how far they had come since those dark days after Sarah's death, and to feel a quiet certainty that she would be proud of the life they were building, not just surviving, but truly living again. As Frank pulled up to their modest home, now blissfully free of media presence, Noah carefully lifted Lily from the car, her weight familiar and precious against his chest. The red yarn bracelet she had made him still circled his wrist, a constant reminder of their connection and the simple wisdom that had guided them through grief toward healing. When you get scared, remember to breathe. When you face uncertainty, find courage in caring for others. When life offers unexpected second chances, be brave enough to accept them.